What's going on, guys? It's Luke22SV here, and we're back with the 18th round of Season 1 of the career mode today here for the Mexican Grand Prix, and off the back of a disastrous result in Japan, where we just got it all wrong on the second lap, spinning out of the race, colliding with Sergio Perez. We got to come back into Mexico hoping to improve and pick up that form again that we showed previously before the Japanese Grand Prix. We were looking so good in our first few races for Alfa Romeo. And currently, with the fourth best team, we're jostling for position with Red Bull Racing at the moment. The whole midfield is bunched up, which should make it so interesting going into Season 2 to see who comes out on top. But we're heading to qualifying then for one of the shortest tracks on the calendar, which is the Mexican Grand Prix. A track that I do like as well, so should be interesting today. I think we can be at the top end of the order, hopefully fighting for 5th and 6th, like we have been recently, since we have managed to catch up with Red Bull now. We're becoming best of the rest, and here we are onto our final lap, currently in P6, behind our teammate Lucas Weber. So we've got to do our bit to see if we can actually out-qualify him. We have managed to out-qualify him quite a bit actually, just apart from the last race and our first race in Spa. But we have been quite good in qualifying when we needed to be. But obviously last race in Japan was a weekend to forget. We put that behind us now, but we're currently up on our lap time as well, going through Sector 1. Just a couple of attempts up on Lewis Hamilton actually. We're purple in Sector 1. So this is a good lap by the looks of it at the moment. If we can keep it up, we could be in position for, could be in the fight for pole position here as we go through the Sector 2 section of this track now. And hoping to get close enough to see whether we can actually fight for pole position. Could this be our first race where we've managed to fight for pole position? The Mercedes are really, really strong at every track we go to. So in all honesty, it looks like the only car that's going to be on the front row is a Mercedes. So unless we have anything we can do about that, we'll soon see. But we're around the last few corners now. We're green in Sector 2, so we're up by quite a bit on our previous lap. Can we move up into the top bit of the grid? We've moved across the line, and it's going to be P3. So fantastic qualifying then. P3 for the grid tomorrow. Provisional grid, unless there's any penalties, of course. We don't know that. But Hamilton and Bottas in that championship battle that's hotting up at the moment. They're so close. It's like a photocopy of 2016, almost, with how close they are at the top towards the end of the season. But there you go, our teammate down in 7th. We're so strong, and Gasly down in 11th. I'll be surprised if Gasly is still at Red Bull next season. But we move on into the race then for the Mexican Grand Prix.
The air may be thin here in Mexico City. The atmosphere is anything but. The crowd have been chanting and singing, not just this afternoon, but throughout the entire weekend. There's a great love for Formula One here, and no small amount of expectation. Let's hope today's Grand Prix can meet it. Off the back of a
let's have a look at the grid then. It was Hamilton who was on provisional pole alongside Valtteri Bottas. We were in P3. Let's have a look at the starting grid for the race today. It's Valtteri Bottas on pole. We're in second. Hamilton's had a grid penalty, so we're on the front row for the first time in his career mode. Leclerc and Verstappen on row 2. And Albon up in 5th there for Toro Rosso, having a great day. Weber alongside him. Vettel, Perez, followed by Ricciardo and Gasly. Hamilton down 11th, he's got work to do today. Magnussen ahead of Danny Kvyat, Hulkenberg, Russell and Sainz. Then Grosjean, Devon Butler, Lando Norris and Robert Kubica and McLaren really struggling in qualifying. They really need to turn around that package and hopefully get towards the front end of the grid with their drivers. But we move on then to start the race then on the front row of the grid alongside Valtteri Bottas as it goes to lights out, and away we go. And we're away in Mexico, and Leclerc gets ahead of us almost immediately. And look at Albon having a great start there. He's up into P3 almost before the first corner. Great start for Alex Albon, our former teammate. Can we break him into turn 1 though? You can see Vettel as well having a good start from where he was on the grid. We dive down the inside of Albon and get back into P3 as he's on the left hand side of us. So we lose a position off the start to Charles Leclerc, but that's always expected, to be fair. They've got the better race package for sure. It's much easier to match him in qualifying. But in the race, the Ferrari, the second best car, is still a long way ahead of us at the moment. So we've got our work cut out if we're going to retake that position away from Charles Leclerc. But really, our battle is to try and stay ahead of the Red Bulls at the moment. That's who we're fighting with in terms of the performance chart. But a great start then from, Leclerc getting ahead of us. But we're in P3, so we just got to try and stay here. Albon having a great qualifying for Toro Rosso. Again, another qualifying that's he's done well in. He's done very well in Italy. Danny Kvyat done well in Singapore. So Toro Rosso are starting to get into the upper end of the grid just like we are, but as soon as we leave Toro Rosso, they start to do well. And Albon's really starting to become good as well in that Toro Rosso, who's now following us in P4. So he's managed to get ahead of a few people there as well. So Valtteri Bottas leading the way. This is important for his championship fight with Lewis Hamilton. This could be a race that he gets a huge advantage over his teammate. And there you can see we tried to cover off Leclerc immediately. We knew we'd get that poor start, but Leclerc jumped us immediately. Albon there, you can see it's almost 5 abreast there behind us going into turn 1. You can see the racing point, the Red Bull, my teammate of Lucas Weber and Sebastian Vettel on the outside as we go through turn 1 ahead of Alexander Albon. See Max Verstappen and Lucas Weber going wheel to wheel there as well, and Sebastian Vettel just behind him. So again, you can see Alex Albon having a hell of a qualifying, and Danny Kvyat is actually there as well. So here's the onboard from Lucas Weber. You see Alex Albon to the left. Poor start from Verstappen as such, but Weber got held up a little bit by myself. We're going in a straight line, so Weber having a good start, but then Vettel coming alongside him. Vettel at this point looks like he's about to get ahead of a few cars, but Verstappen later on the brakes than everyone else, a lot braver. And look, you see Albon, a little bit of contact perhaps between myself and him. He gets a little bit out of shape out of the chicane. Weber fighting here with Verstappen wheel to wheel as we go towards the next part of the track through sector 1. You can see Verstappen hanging it around the outside, and Weber still hanging it around there. You can see Verstappen just about nudging ahead into P5. Weber now hanging it around again. They're still side by side for the last few corners. It's a great start to the race for these guys. Great, very clean, well, almost very clean until those had a little bit of contact there. But I think Weber there gets the better of it at the end of that then, and he managed to get ahead of Verstappen. But now we move on to the end of lap 2. You see, we can't even see the guys ahead of us. Charles Leclerc's got some good pace as well. He's sitting the fastest lap of the race, but also someone with some good pace is Alexander Albon, who's looking to get past us. And could Alexander Albon be in contention for a podium today? We don't know, because there's a bit of a queue between, well, a bit of a gap between Albon and the cars behind. So Albon's managed to break free from those guys. But for sure, we got Vettel, Hamilton, Verstappen, all going to be coming up the field. So Albon, if we haven't got the pace today, Albon will do a very good job if he can get past us, because he can pull away, perhaps if he's got more pace than us, and put some more distance between himself and the likes of Vettel and Hamilton, who should have the pace to get through everyone really. As you can see, Leclerc and Bottas, their teammates, are flying up ahead. We can barely see them at the moment, and we're only on lap 3. But Albon still chasing us at this point. Our former teammate, of course. It's weird how Toro Rosso have suddenly become quite good. Whenever we were driving the Toro Rosso, they're always in the bottom half of the grid, always trying to always struggling really in the bottom half of the grid, always in the bottom half in qualifying. But now getting more consistently in the top half. We've improved since we've left Toro Rosso. They've improved since we've left Toro Rosso. So it's almost a very good, a very good move for both parties. Alfa Romeo improving under us as well, with Raikkonen now stepping aside, obviously not enjoying this season with 0 points, but we come in a realistic move actually. I think it was where we replaced Raikkonen on 0 points. Stroll actually moving away, sort of half realistic considering his dad owns Racing Point, but he did struggle compared to his teammate in terms of points wise. So I'm really actually impressed with the mid-season changes on here, because they're actually quite realistic. Danny Kvyat stepping into the Toro Rosso. Be interesting to see if there's any changes going into next season as well. What kind of changes would go ahead? I think the most likely one I'd say is probably Gasly leaving Red Bull, but you know, anything can happen. He's struggling a lot recently. Maybe a bit of bad luck, but we could actually potentially try and catch him at the end of the season, perhaps, in terms of points, because at the moment we're fighting for best of the rest, and we see the Red Bulls aren't too far ahead of us in the driver standings, particularly Pierre Gasly, and he's in an awful run of form at the moment. So we're hopefully trying to close up to him, maybe take P6 away, but that might be a bit of a stretch. But at the moment we seem to be pulling away a little bit from Alexander Albon now, so perhaps his little chase there has worn off a little bit as we go through the last few corners now to start lap 5. So P3 is looking possible today, as we now move on to lap 5, at the end of lap 5, and P3 looking very possible. But Lewis Hamilton's going to come through the field. He needs those points for the championship, of course, but Valtteri Bottas is currently down to P2, so instead of the perfect opportunity to get max points this race, he's now having to work very hard for it because Charles Leclerc is having a great race today. Shouldn't really be fighting with those Mercedes, but maybe the Ferrari suits to this track a little bit more than other tracks because the Mercedes has been so dominant this season, as we can tell with the drivers and constructors standings. But Hamilton now is close to us now. He's managed to get past Alexander Albon, so maybe our podium chances are wearing away now because Hamilton, surely it's only a matter of time before he gets past us, probably at the start of next lap, move on to lap 7, where you'd expect Lewis Hamilton to get past us and make it count. But now he's really closing in on us with DRS. He had it on Albon. He's going to have that DRS closing in on us as well. So we just got to try and keep ahead of him for the time being. We'd love to have another podium. It'd be our second of the season, of course. Well, we never know because Hamilton's really close to us now, and he's dived down the inside, and there's contact between myself and Hamilton. He's round. So what on earth happened there? We made a collision with Hamilton. Was that an overtaking move? That was really bizarre. Here's the replay of it from Hamilton. Was it my fault? Was it his fault? Did I turn in too early? Was he too far back? I don't think it was an overtaking opportunity, to be honest. I don't know what he was thinking. No one in their right mind should be going for an overtake there, and that could really cost him dearly in this championship battle now. So it's like almost like a Vettel of 2018, making moves that he didn't really need to make. He could have literally waited to the end of the lap to have made that on the DRS straight. It would have been comfortable for him. But here he is. He's a little bit far back at this point to make a move. He catches up quite a lot though. But into that corner, I wasn't expecting him to make the move, so he turned in. I think that's going to be Hamilton. I'm not going to take responsibility for that, to be honest. I don't think I can be blamed for that. So Hamilton is going to be very disappointed down at the back of the order now, so he's got another job to do. He started 11th, managed to get his way up to 4th, and now he's back down to 20th. So he's got his work cut out in this race if he wants to fight for that championship with Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas, very much the Valtteri 2.0 that we saw in a real life 2019 start of the season. But now we've boxed to put on the medium tyres and go to the end of the race. And that podium position is now back on for us now. Those tyres are actually going off quite badly on the soft tyres. So hopefully these medium tyres will be able to get us to the end of the race, which you'd expect to in a 25% race. But we get on that pit limiter. It's an awfully long straight. So we get out of the pits. We're down in last and see Lewis Hamilton just ahead of us. So that's how much that little incident has cost him there. So he's really, almost lost a pit stop really. He'd probably be that sort of distance ahead of us after a few laps, to be fair. So yeah, really disappointing for Lewis Hamilton. We didn't really mean to take him out at all. We were just taking our normal racing line, and now coming towards the, everyone else pitting as well the next lap. And Sebastian Vettel behind us. He's on the hard tyres, so he's pitted a lap later on the hard tyres. Has Ferrari got that one right or wrong? Well, have we got it right or wrong? But maybe the harder tyres are going to get to the race a little bit better than what the medium ones are. Are these tyres going to last that long? Maybe Ferrari think differently, but Vettel will be going to the end then on the hard tyres. And now that's the question is whether Vettel can catch us or not for P3. So we would imagine Albon's now managed to fall back a little bit. He's had this little excitement at the start and probably just dropped back a little bit now towards the rest of the top 10. But now the opportunity now to get another podium is really looming large now. So if we can keep a good pace of the second half of the race and stay ahead of Sebastian Vettel, that'll be the question. But not with little things like that. We're getting a warning for corner cut in there. Just taking the wrong line through the whole complex there. And you just have, if you take one wrong line, it could lead make the whole complex go wrong. Lose a bit of time, we'll get corner cut. But wow, we managed to catch up to the back of these guys that should all be peeling into the pits now on lap 10. I'd imagine their tyres are pretty damn dead, considering how dead ours were. But we crossed the line and we're overtaking all these guys, and we're up into P3 as we were. So this is where we got to be to the end of the race. Valtteri Bottas and Charles Leclerc are long gone ahead of us, so it could be a really boring end to this race as we now cruise. And Sebastian Vettel is quite a margin behind us as well. So yeah, it's he's actually fighting with Sergio Perez over P4 at the moment. So these guys are going to keep battling. We should be quite comfortable if they'll be losing a bit of time. We're 10.9 seconds ahead behind of Valtteri Bottas. So he's going to be fighting with Leclerc, and we're quite a bit ahead of Vettel as well, about 7 seconds. So he's going to go a second lap quicker than us really to catch us and overtake us. Is he going to be able to do that or not? His teammate's showing some good pace as Carlos Sainz retires from the session as well. So if Vettel can show the pace that his teammates got, he may be able to catch us. But at the moment, he's a little bit far behind us and on perhaps the wrong tyres. I think the medium tyres are fine for these conditions. So I don't know why Sebastian Vettel's on the hard tyres. But hey-ho, we're now 7.7 seconds ahead of Vettel. So we're actually pulling away, if anything. So it's looking good for us at the moment in this race. We're another podium, our second of the season. And a very happy days for us as we now move on. Again, we're even further ahead of Vettel. We're moving on to the last lap of the race now. As you saw there, it's almost 11 seconds ahead of Vettel. So we've actually managed to pull out a gap over Sebastian. And now we've just got one lap to go. Most comfortable, boring end to the race that we could have asked for. Not particularly the most exciting one, but definitely one that we wouldn't mind having if we want the points that we want. We do look like we're going to get these points at the end, unless we manage to botch it up on the last race, last lap of the race. Hopefully not. But now, just one lap to go. Another podium for Alfa Romeo, and definitely looking like we can seal fourth in the constructors at this rate. We wouldn't imagine Racing Point or Renault being able to manage to get a podium in the last few races of the season. Well, Brazil may be the only one. That's the only one that really throws up a surprising race here and there. But USA, Abu Dhabi, probably not. We wouldn't imagine that unless there was some sort of weird safety car situation and someone on a different strategy managed to pull out something there. But we're looking quite comfortable in the constructors now, and we should be able to settle for fourth with a result like this. I imagine Weber's in the points as well. So happy days. Leclerc winning the race of Ferrari, a fantastic race to win. Considering how dominant Mercedes were in qualifying. They were 1 and 2 in provisional qualifying results, and Leclerc was behind myself as well on the grid. So Leclerc having a great race pace as well as we cross the line, and it's going to be another podium, our second of the season, the second for Alfa Romeo, and hopefully the wins aren't too far away. We'll probably have to wait until next season for that, but Mattia Binotto being quite happy there, and yeah, you got good reason to be. His drivers did well. One of his drivers did very well. Vettel having a bit of a difficult day, having to settle for fourth. But Leclerc will be very happy with that. He was on the medium tyres as well, so perhaps they got it right there with Leclerc and not so much with Vettel. But there you go. End of the race there. We lost one position from the start, but technically we were at P3 on the grid anyway, but moved up, but finished P3 anyway, so can't really complain too much about that. The guys that are ahead of us are faster than us by some margin, and we managed to keep some faster cars behind us as well. So Hamilton finished P13 in the end, Vettel P4, Weber was in P5, so that's a good 25 points there for Alfa Romeo. So we can be very happy with that, and that's great for the midfield battle, because none of the racing points, well, Perez got 8 points, Ricciardo was not been doing too well, Weber's up to 9th now, we're in 7th, we're not too far behind Gasly, so a couple more good results and we could be in P6, and we're in P4, Racing Point getting P5 as I expected, but there you go. I think that's going to be the end of the episode there, though, guys. I hope you enjoyed it today. We'll be back very soon for the US Grand Prix. See you very soon. Like and subscribe.